Newcastle, Australia on a Tuesday evening. It's 7 in the morning in Manchester, England. And this is the only place in the world where you can look at one city divided by black and red and find one half pissed. And you can also find a bloke who did his car for the first 3 weeks of the year and still play better than the whole of St. George Illawarra. Yes, this is the Sideline Chat podcast, the one-stop shop for rugby league. Along with Mark Hendry, I'm Connor Marcellus, and today it is your NRL Week 5 debrief. If you like what we do here, both with the NRL Super League and our gaming series, which we're still on hold, but we're doing them, make sure you leave a like and subscribe. But before all of that, we got to jump into all the action of round 5 of the NRL, starting off with the Sydney Roosters up against the Parramatta Eels.
Parramatta team news is Junior Paulo is missing 2 weeks for a grade 2 careless high tackle, so that puts Weremu Greg into the starting side and Jack Murchie joining the bench. In other words, unchanged lineup.
Couple of changes for the Roosters. First up, Joey Manu rubbed out for 1 week due to suspension, so Drew Hutchinson comes back into the set. Enters. Corey Allen also joins the bench with Terrell May dropping out for Ornafu White. Now, of course, contrasting performances. Of course, the Roosters had the bye, so they are pretty much refreshed. But let's talk about the Eels' grand final rematch heroics against the Penrith Panthers. The Eels getting home 17-16, all said and done.
Yeah, it was a very, very solid game. I thought the grand final rematch was going to be an absolute blockbuster of a game, and certainly it was that, and it went into extra time, which we'll touch on very shortly.
Yeah, no, I thought Parramatta were I wouldn't say they were lucky, because they were practically the better side for up to an hour at least. I mean, they were walking over the Panthers. It's just, in terms defensively, they were holding it in there. They got, I think, Mitchell Moses' ball playing down the right-hand side, finding Brendan Hands, getting the try on debut to the young hooker. I think it played out very well, but they almost let it slip again. Like, 3 bad weeks, Penrith were coming home like a wet sail, as they usually have. Well, they haven't really had to do that, but they were coming home like they were still the number 1 side in the NRL, which they are.
Yeah.
And my God, the balls of Nathan Cleary. 5 seconds to go. You're down by 2. It's 16-14 Parramatta's way. What's the first thing you think about after the penalty? You go for a 2-point field goal.
Well, Aussie kicked the touch first and it was like spot on the 40-metre line, and then straight from the tap, and you went straight for it and successfully got it.
Oh my God, he's actually iced that.
I think he was one of the first players to get a 2-point field goal when they...
No, still Adam Reynolds.
Well, I said one of the first 2.
But he'd probably be up there with Reynolds as the most 2-point field goals kicked at this point, wouldn't he?
I believe so, but I'm not 100% sure. But yeah.
But then just going in the golden point, and then Mitchell Moses, all the talk about him, he steps up, he has his moment, icing that game in golden point.
And what a way to, what do you call it? Announce, well, on the day that he announced his contract extension.
Speculatively, but it's practically...
all but confirmed, pretty much.
He's iced in a new 4-year contract extension until the end of 2028. And he was, I think, stand up for me. 62 run meters, not much running from him. 1 tackle break, but get this. 1,006 kick meters. 1,006. Wow. That is officially confirmed as the most kick meters in the history of the National Rugby League in a single game.
Wow.
2 goal line dropouts, 4 from 4 goals converted, and of course the field goal that won the Eels their first game of the year, plus a little bit of revenge for last year. He gets my 3 votes there. Will Penasini, I think, was the next best cab off the rank, to be quite fair. 135 run meters, 1 try assist, a line break assist, and an offload. So he'll pick up 2 votes from me there.
It was a solid game, like I mentioned, and it was... Yeah, you thought Parramatta were going to go on with it and not put a huge score on, but put a reasonable score on. But then, yeah, Penrith has come back, and It was literally a grandstand finish, and that's what we want. A very close grandstand finish.
Now,
Nail-biting stuff.
focusing solely on this game, there is a big asterisk now next to the Eels because there is no Paolo in this side. As of course, he's out for the next 2 weeks for that sort of that ridiculous challenge for that high shot, which was practically careless. Sort of question why exactly he would challenge that.
Yeah, I don't know. It was blatant and obvious, obviously. But, yeah, I don't know why you'd challenge it, though, when you know...
He's lucky he didn't get sent off at this point. I mean, he got binned, but he's lucky he didn't get sent off.
Yeah, very lucky indeed. But now Parramatta just suffer without him. And what is another big matchup for him in as many weeks?
And going into the Roosters, who have a very strong record at their new home, I should say. They've only lost one set Allianz since they moved back into it since the rebuild.
And that was against the Rabbitohs last year.
And of course, any injury concerns they would have had, Jared Warrior-Hargreaves, Brandon Smith, the niggling injuries, they would have had a full week to get those injuries healed up and ready to go. And we saw how effective JWH was in getting the Roosters over the line against South in round 3. So I think they'll look for the momentum swing in the Roosters' favour. I think the Roosters go for 3 straight 8 wins here and continue to rocket up the ladder towards the top end. And Parramatta, they really would have to try and match it in the middle. I'm not sure how exactly their middle rotation is going to go with no Paolo because they all play big minutes.
Yeah,
and it's really going to take an effort, not just from Campbell Gillard, but I reckon Moses will need to back up what he has to do, what he did against Penrith to be within a shot. But I think the Roosters is well rested, and I think they'll walk away with another 2 points. The Roosters 1-6 for my liking.
Well, you pretty much summed it up perfectly there. Junior Paolo is a big out for Parramatta, and I think if Parramatta wanted to have a chance at winning this game, which they still are, don't get me wrong, but having him there to put up against like Victor Radley and JWH is a big loss, and they needed him for that. But I'm going to say Roosters will come away with this one 7 points to 12.
Yeah, I think the Roosters go 3 on the trot. The Eels back to the drawing board ahead of facing the Tigers on Easter Monday. Now, on to the first of the Friday night game sees the Canberra Raiders at home once more against the Penrith Panthers. Edge combinations getting a bit of an overhaul for Ivan Cleary's side. Luke Garner is out resting niggling injury. So Scott Sorensen makes a very rare start indeed alongside Zach Hosking. Lindsay Smith joins the bench for his 5th appearance in the NRL. No Sony Luke after being stood down for the next 11 days. So Tyrone Peachey will start his first game for the Panthers for a couple of years.
Been a long time for him. As for the Raiders, Jordan Rapana is back from suspension, so with James Schiller making way for his return. Jamar Fogarty is also back, which pushes Matt Frawley out to cover Jack Whiten, who's suspended. Jarrah Croker is part of the extended squad and could potentially come into the squad.
Now, of course, Canberra, they didn't fare much better than Penrith did. They ended up surrendering a halftime lead to the Newcastle Knights, going down 24-14. I mean, seriously, how exactly did they surrender a 14-8 lead?
Don't know.
Losing Fogarty, yeah, sure, it hurt them in the lineup when he got ruled out with illness practically on game day. But the tries the Knights conceded, on that trajectory, you would be thinking, oh my God. First of all, Frawley gets an offload away when you think he's going to go down in the tackle for Hudson Young. And then Jack Whiten, on that set, everything just went wrong and he still somehow ends up underneath the sticks.
That's just poor defence from Newcastle, seriously. Like, you should be able to defend that sort of stuff. But, hey, Jack Whiten is a class player too.
And the interesting thing is, News Corp's actually reporting at this moment, he's actually going to put himself on the open market after 14 years.
Jack Whiten?
Yeah. Not necessarily 14 years, but the word is ahead of 2024 because he got a contract option in his favour. He wants to test the market to see who's Who's after him?
Well, I thought he was going to use his player option, but obviously not.
So ultimately,
Although, sorry, this is slightly off topic. Could he maybe go to the Tigers? Because apparently, no.
You serious?
Well, apparently,
Get out of here.
Well, apparently they're gonna look at what Brooksy's gonna be doing to see if they shaft him on or if they keep him or not.
I'm sorry, but it's just like, are you seriously going to go try and tempt Jack Whiten to jump on the bus that left 5 years ago to say, hey, why don't you join Tiger Town?
Yeah, I don't know, but
You would have to pay him $2 million a year extra. That's honestly, that's probably what the Tigers would have to do. They would honestly offer him a $10 million deal for 5 years at $2 million a year because they are that desperate to try and lure someone over.
well, at least he'll be playing better than what Brooks does on a $1.1 million deal.
But it's a lose-lose situation because at this point, if Whiten actually is contemplating joining the Tigers at this point,
Well, I don't know. I've probably just started a rumor now, but anyway.
but it's honestly a nothing burger. They missed out on Moses, but you would not contemplate joining the Tigers.
No.
The Broncos, there would honestly be questions if the Broncos actually, he did land his signature. Dolphins, well, actually, the Dolphins is probably the next logical step because it's like anyone who's of a big name off contract for 2024 is now automatically linked to the Dolphins because it's like, think of it this way. They already got Farnworth, they already got Flegler. You stick Whiten in the halves with either Catella or Sullivan, bang! Suddenly Wayne Bennett's got on a top 8 side on his hands.
Exactly. But
And he does need a superstar half, I reckon.
he does, but we'll see what happens there.
But
now, going off topic, as
It wasn't
usual.
all sunshine and rainbows for Jack Whiten because he ended up clipping Jackson Hastings late
Yes.
and is now stood down for the next 2 weeks, which from Canberra's point of view, not a good look, especially with that second half collapse, both when he was on and off the field. I mean, 3 tries in 10 minutes. Greg Marju, like an absolute weapon.
2 tries on debut for
Yeah.
Newcastle.
But it was the stand-in fullback for Newcastle, Lachlan Miller. 255 run meters, 2 try assists, 9 tackle breaks, 2 line break assists, 2 offloads, and 2 from 3 goals converted. He was the night's best because, I mean, they just stretched Canberra's left side defensively so thin that even Dan Gagai could... Oh, not Dan Gagai, he's been playing all right for them.
Yeah.
But it's just like they stretched it so thin, you would swear it was actually the Tigers they were playing.
Well, yeah, exactly right. And Knights were going literally sideline to sideline in the build-up to a few of those tries. And they had them stretched like Greg Marsh's first try in the corner in the first half. Like how stretched for Canberra? Very, very stretched indeed.
It was paper thin. You could actually see the Roosters salary cap on it.
Yeah. But I'm going to say, I know it's Greg Marsh's on debut, but he looked very, very solid. It's going to be, I reckon it's going to be hard for Dom Young to get back into the side. We'll touch on them soon. But
the other thing, Jamin Salmon, and there was talk of he was going to miss this game. He's actually going to be there, so we'll see which weak gutted dog gets dragged over the try line first.
yes.
I mean, there's already a
Salmon,
bit of heat in this
yeah.
Canberra-Penrith clash already without Ricky Stewart inflaming the tension. So there's that one. But in all honesty, I think the Panthers will be disappointed that they let this result slip in Golden Point. I mean, they did everything in their power to come back against Parramatta. And Canberra just praying for reinforcements at this point. I don't think even with Fogarty coming back, I think Cleary's going to outclass him 10-1 at this point. I think
It'll be better if we can get a better 2-point field goal as well.
I think, in all fairness, the Panthers, this is a danger game for the Raiders, and I think it's going to be a licorice bruising left, right, and centre. Penrith, for me, 7-12, get up here.
Yeah. Oh, I don't think we touched on it, but Matt Frawley got like a 45-minute 2-point field goal on half-time too, so that was a very solid effort there. He's in a side against a back-to-back games for him that's come in a bit of a rare occasion, like him cracking into first grade nowadays. But yeah, coming up against the Panthers side, they're going to be way too strong. Penrith against Canberra, so Penrith win this on 7 points to 12 again.
Now, this is going to be a mouth-watering clash right here. We've got the South Sydney Rabbitohs up against the Melbourne Storm for your main. And I believe I've got the sponsor right for this. It's still Macca's Friday Night Football?
I believe so.
Because it's Kia Thursday Night Football, I'm aware, and they've still Chemist Warehouse Sunday Football as well.
Yes.
And then Bundaberg Rum Super... Oh, no, a Suzy Ute... I forgot what the Fox League sponsor is for Saturday. For the Super Saturday broadcast, so we'll just leave it at that.
Isn't it a KFC?
Oh, yeah, it is too, I think.
Anyway, we're going off topic.
Make me hungry.
Storm just the one change with Tom Osborne, who joined the bench after being 18th man last week. He replaces Tyrone Wishart, who goes to reserves, and Jerome Hughes is still a week away, with Jonah Pezzett still retaining the halfback spot.
Well, just one change for the Rabbitohs on the bench. Hame Sele coming back into the side, which pushes Ben Lovett back to the reserves. Of course, Melbourne back to their, I wouldn't say their best, but back in the winner's circle, downing the woeful Tigers 24-12, while Souths, miracle escape against the Manly Sea Eagles 13-12 in practically poetic tribute to the late, great John Sattler.
I have to say, credit to Classic, who's the manufacturer of the South jerseys, the NRL and South Sydney and the NRL allowing South Sydney to go to half rabbit on short notice, and Classic for coming up with the 1970 jersey design on very, very short notice. And my God, it actually looked really nice. Even the numbers on the back kind of looked a bit like old school. And chuck another stat on top. All 8 grades that South Sydney played in over the weekend, including NRL, won.
Well, that is...
How touching
it doesn't
that?
get better than that. It, honestly, for a tribute to a club legend like John Sattler, it doesn't get any better than that. And doing it against Manly, well, no one foresaw it, but that was just poetry in motion.
And how ironic too that John Sattler's number was 13, and that's the points that South's got.
Yeah, less impressive, but still.
Yeah, I know, and I believe...
if they retired the number, it would have been... If they retired number he was notorious for, because he was a front rower, so...
I thought they would have done that, but obviously
they did it for Tommy Rodonicus, but that's neither here nor there.
But yeah, the jersey and that looked pretty good. But yeah, credit to South and NRL and Classic.
This game was an absolute classic. There's nothing more you can say about that. And the Rabbitohs, we said last week they would have been undergunned in the Fords going to this. Well, my God, they stood up big time.
Bloody oath they did.
Kuala was actually playing in the middle for this game.
Yeah, he's not used to that.
Well, I'll tell you what, for Jason Demetriou, it was a switch that paid dividends.
Bloody oath. So now if they're short in the middle again, you can throw Kuala in there and it'd be sweet to go.
He even said later on, it'll help me get noticed in Freddie's eyes. Because there's always that origin talk that's going to be around. And you got to say, Kuala Matangi, Ola Kawatu, 2 edge forwards, either one of them is going to be gunning for a spot in Brad Fittler's origin squad when it gets announced closer to game 1.
Yes.
But
barring injuries.
But I tell you what, who stole the show? It was Cody Walker for me. He stole the show completely. 2 tries, 93 run meters, 2 tackle breaks and a line break. But the first try, he didn't even think he scored.
No.
And then we had a look at the replay. It was just like, oh, no way. He actually grounded that. It was just like...
right near the dead ball line.
It was a frame the difference, but it was just like... he was like, yeah, no, mate, I didn't score. Then he had a look at it. It was like, oh, wait a minute. Maybe I actually did score.
And he started celebrating, yeah.
And he absolutely pulled Manly's shorts down on that one.
He certainly did. But at least he didn't celebrate a try, but then it got taken off him like some people do.
They've gotten so much better at when to fib and when not to fib. And he was just absolutely being honest, and they still gave him the try.
Yeah, because that was a try. Just. But yeah, he destroyed it.
And then the madness of Daly Cherry Evans bagging a try right on half-time. The intercept try that gave Manly the lead.
Yes. Should have that been an intercept? No. But it is what it is.
But they reckon the only downside was the forward pass.
that denied
Manly a try.
Yes. I
Which
can't remember who in particular. I believe it was Schuster. I could be wrong.
I can't remember, but even Graham Annesley's come out and admit that wasn't a forward pass.
Yeah. And a few cough ups on the referees in the thing, but they've been pretty solid so far this season. Anyway, we're going off topic yet again.
At the end of the day, though, someone had to win it, and it was unfortunate that Josh Alloyer knocked on in Golden Point right in front of the sticks. But no one would have foresaw Lachlan Ilias getting the shot away.
No, I was just about to touch on that. He beat me to it as per normal. Everyone would have thought at least Cody Walker or Latrell Mitchell, but nope, Ilias said, "Oh, give me a shot."
Well, even he admitted in the post-match interview, they would have been charging hard. I had to get at Latrell if they knew he was taking the shot. So he just said to Cookie, "Give me the ball when we're in position. I'll just ice it over from here."
And sure enough, he did. So he credit to him for his first ever NRL field goal.
And the one that mattered the most. Melbourne, on the other hand, not pretty, but they got the job done against the West Tigers.
Yeah, they did. I have to say, having Cameron Munster back helped big time.
Woeful Tigers defense. I mean, look at Luke Brooks. There's literally montages online already with about 5 minutes of everything that went wrong when he had the ball all on tackle 5 and before as well.
Yeah, but he was trying. I think he was trying to be the big show hero. Like there was plenty of times he could have passed the ball on tackle 5 and had more of a likely chance of scoring. Nope. Let me run the ball myself and try and score. Oh wait, I'll get tackled instead. And they wonder why.
On top of all his defensive troubles, the fact that he just the last 2 weeks, Brooks has been absolutely manhandled by probably most right edge attacks. Like Preston, Carraz, Avarillo. Then it was Eli Katoa this week.
Yes.
Just absolutely manhandling Luke Brooks.
Yep.
And I'm going to say, Eli Katoa was my standout player for the Storm here. 125 run meters, 2 try assists, 5 tackle breaks and a line break. But what about the first try assist he threw? Brilliant cut-up pass for William Warbrick, the Rugby 7 silver medalist for the All Blacks, scoring his first rugby league try.
Yeah, that was a very, very solid effort there, and credit to Warbrick. Playing his, 4th straight game?
4th straight game and his first try, yeah.
Very good. And it was in the home crowd of Melbourne, so that was even better.
But you're right, Cameron Munster was, again, the difference. He contributed the rest of the other try as well, but where did the Tigers go? I mean, they don't even play 8 for 40 minutes. We talk about 80-minute games. They don't even play for 40.
No.
They play 20 at best, where they might look troubling against someone like Melbourne, but they just cannot complete.
No.
I mean, we talk about all these stats right here, like time of possession, amount of tackle breaks, offloads, line breaks, how much you're playing in the opposition 20.
Yeah.
We've got to this point where we realize none of it matters if you're not converting, if you're not forcing dropouts, getting repeat sets, or even scoring.
Someone right here out of us two is all too familiar with that.
Over the last couple of years, we've both been familiar with it, but...
Yeah, but more recently this week.
My main thesis at the moment is how Souths are going to back up after a mammoth Golden Point finish, because they were all rooted.
They were.
The scores tied at 12-all. No one looked likely. And I mean, absolutely nobody looked likely to beat either difference in this game until the Alloyer knock on. And even though they won it, I don't know how they're going to back up after this, especially considering what Melbourne, job done against the West Tigers. How is South going to physically match up? The answer is, I think Melbourne is going to be the much more refreshed side here. I think you'll say Ian Munster really try and stamp his authority on here, I think. Try and keep Walker and Mitchell out of the game as much as he can. And I think if they can just focus on completion rates, that would be Melbourne's main thing. Still offload, but like against the Titans, cut down on the errors and just back your defense. I think the Storm win this in a tight 1-6.
I'm actually going to say South Sydney win this one 1-6. Again, a tight contest. Don't know how far it's going to go. I don't think it's going to go in extra time, but I think South will just get the upper edge on Melbourne. It's a flip of a coin, this one, I personally think.
Well, we'll see how that one pans out at the end, whether South or Melbourne can walk away in a big Friday night game between two perennial contenders at this point.
Yes.
Now, first of the Saturday afternoon games on April Fools, it's the Manly Sea Eagles against the Newcastle Knights from the Glen Willow Oval in Mudgee.
Yeah, we're heading out regional New South Wales.
So the Knights, even though they came up victorious against the Canberra Raiders, it was not without cost. Kurt Meh and suffered a concussion, so he's already gone for the next 11 days at this point. Jack Johns will instead start at lock forward, whilst Greg Marju will keep Dom Young out of the side on the right flank in an otherwise unchanged lineup for the Knights.
As for the home side, Morgan Harper is playing his first game of the season, taking his place of Koala, with Lockie Croker returning from shoulder injury, which pushes Carl Lawton to the reserves list. Otherwise, the unchanged side for Manly that went down.
How would you rate Manly's recent results under Anthony Seibold thus far?
I'm going to have to say surprising. Criticise me all you want, but surprising. Because, look, everyone had written them... Well, a lot of people had Manly down the bottom.
I had them wooden spooners. I'm somewhat regretting that at the moment, but
it's still a long season to go.
Yeah, I don't think Manly's going to be wooden spooners at this point.
They are actually going really, really well. A lot better than what a lot of people expected, including myself. And so far, it's been so good. Yes, they've had losses and like a few losses here and there, but they've been competitive so far, which it's a good sign that top six?
They're top four at the moment.
Top four, yes.
Well, it's only a month in, so that can easily change. But at this point, I'm still out of regretting picking Manly as wooden spooners, because that's clearly not going to happen at this point.
Well, you honestly don't know what's going to happen.
But interestingly, with Manly, they've had a bit of a roster readjustment. Aaron Woods coming in, officially as announced. As of today, he will be joining from St George Illawarra on a contract for the remainder of the year, whilst young forwards Vilya Ami Fafita and Alec Tuatavake will go the other way. Fafita onto a top 30 contract, and Tuatavake will be on a development contract with a 2-year deal in the top 30 from 2024.
Can I just say, hallelujah! We got rid of one player that is absolutely useless. Credit to the Dragons for getting rid of him.
Define useless exactly, because I see this is the sort of deal that is like a win for both parties concerned. St. George... No, hear me out. St. George Illawarra gained 2 younger forwards that
apparently
fast-track their development to try and break into the NRL side.
And apparently there's like the next 2 big things coming through Manly.
On the contrast for Manly, they actually pick up another experienced middle forward that they could desperately use at the moment, especially considering they didn't re-sign Mani Tapa'u earlier last year. So there is benefit for both sides.
But I've also heard this will be the last contract for Aaron Woods.
Well, he's got a nice job with Triple M waiting for him. I mean, he's practically a regular contributor on the rush hour.
Unless James Graham isn't blowing up at him, but we'll touch on we won't go
Little
there.
bitches! I can't do Graham. He's just like, I can't.
But apparently Woodsy is signed there to be a mentor off the bench for the younger forwards.
Which, again, this is why he was signed by Manly. This is exact...
What did he do with the Dragons? Nothing! Another use-by date old player that we don't need anymore. We now just need to get rid of Moses Mbye, although he has improved better than what I thought, but still.
Death riding players. This is your paradox right here. It's just like, you death ride one, and then in the same breath, it's like, but he's actually looked half decent in this position.
Yeah, half decent, not fully decent. I still need to piss him off. Anyway, But it's a good thing that Dragons actually signed some young talent. For once.
Yeah, instead of letting your Illawarra juniors walk out the door like every other time.
Exactly. We just pinch out the juniors instead.
And then they'll probably get pissed off 2 or 3 years later as well.
Probably. Depending on who the coach is at
If
the
only
time.
I had Gus Gould's phone number, because then I could just recommend. There's a couple of underused Dragons players at the moment. You think maybe let's talk.
Such as?
Oh, I don't know. Jaden Sullivan, maybe.
Hey! Don't pinch Sullivan.
Oh.
I know he wanted to walk out on the club.
Yeah, but then it was rather fortunate. There was a hammer attack on Amone, so he got his chance at the moment.
Yes.
We'll see how long that lasts.
Anyway,
Focusing
rough
back on
topic.
this game,
As usual.
I'm still waiting for Tom Drabojevic to finally find his feet. I think we're all are at
He's
this
easing his
point.
way back in. I don't think he's not going too hard too early. He's playing a bit conservative to start off the year, and then he's easing into it.
There's a lot of talk around who might get picked, because I was actually listening on the radio earlier before we came on. Campbell Graham being talked about in the Blues conversation. Now, I mean, it's still way too early to pick a State of Origin side. I mean, everyone's thinking
What the oath it is.
Latrell Mitchell, Tom Drabojevic are going to get picked in the centres for the Blues, and it's just going to shit it Queensland to no end. But if Tom Drabojevic isn't there, I don't think he's there yet. Would you agree with that?
I have to agree with that. He's not quite there to what everyone expects him to be at. Like I said, he's easing his way into the season.
Fair, I think it's the same story with Latrell Mitchell at the moment as well. I think he's still coming up with clutch plays here and there, but it's just not come together yet.
And don't be surprised when Pappenhausen returns that the same thing will happen there. He'll get eased into it.
Look, I think Newcastle have developed an ongoing resilience. I think we've looked at the last 3 results for the Knights. They've had trying circumstances that they've had to compete with. Hastings either getting, knocked out, or is at the centre point putting the pieces together for Newcastle. But I'm looking at the big packs actually right here, and I'm looking at the 2 edges, which I think will be key. The edge forwards combination, and I think Olakawatu and Tuolungi have got the number over Frizzell and Fitzgibbon.
Oh, bloody oath they do.
And I think you look at left edge, Schuster, Parker, Garrick, that's just way too strong on for Newcastle to contain. So I think Manly 7-12 at Mungie and just extend, and they're good run of ornament fortune at the moment.
Look, Newcastle, obviously, yes, they come to win against the Raiders. They know it had a solid performance. Even on the losing side to the Dolphins, they still stuck with the Dolphins for the majority of that game. But I don't think they've got it up against Manly. They'll be there or thereabouts, but I think Manly will just be way too good for them. Manly win this one 7-12.
Now to the middle game of Saturday, of the Super Saturday, let's say. St. George Illawarra Dragons up against the Dolphins.
For the Dolphins, the away side, Anthony Milford is moving from 5'8" to halfback to cover Sean O'Sullivan, and Isaiah Katoa is returning. Testing New is replaced by Jack Bostock, making his NRL. Bostock,
former Illawarra junior. Speaking of juniors.
Yes, making his NRL debut. Jeremy Marshall-Kin is back from his suspension. That means Mason Teague goes to the bench with Herman SA also returning from injury, pushing from Silly to the reserves. Also an ex-Dragon.
So far, Anthony Griffin has named the 7-17 that got absolutely destroyed by the Sharks, 40 points to wait, though he has named Jack DeBellin and Talatau Amone in his wider reserves list. DeBellin probably he could be added later in the week, but his calf injury is still touch and go. So before we talk about the Battle of Brisbane, let's talk about Sunday night at Cogra with the Sharks. Absolute first-class performance. He's got his fingers in his ear. He doesn't want to hear the truth. the whole truth and nothing but the truth that the St. George Illawarra Dragons experiment is starting to falter bigly.
Yes.
And he's neglecting his responsibilities as a host, which I can kick him out anytime I please. If he
Well, I
does
can
not...
go right outside and probably maybe got a chance to get struck by lightning, but I wouldn't do that.
What? If that lightning bolt had 40 written on it?
Hey! If it had that, then hit me all you like.
I think in each individual strike, I think it goes... What does it go? Hynes, Mulatalo, Ramian, Gatoa, Ramian again, Nicara. I think lightning strikes, if they were to have names, they sound like pretty good names, don't you think?
No.
But what happened to St. George Illawarra? Come on, real talk.
Same issue as what happened the week before against Brisbane. We fell asleep this time instead of in the last 10 minutes, in the first 10 minutes of the second half, and we absolutely got annihilated.
The tries dried up for you inside half an hour.
We had tries on 20th and 25th minute, and that was it. No conversions, no penalty goals, no field goals. That was it. 2 tries, that's it.
And Nico Hynes, this bloke just demands to be picked week in, week out. It's just like the reigning Dalian Player of the Year. He's not played for 3 weeks due to his ongoing calf injury. He rocks up. No one expects him to play well, except for the part for the Sharks to win. But not to win like this.
Well, I mean, I did tip the Sharks, and I did think that Hynes would have a good game, but not as good as the game he did.
148 running meters, 3 try assists, 3 tackle breaks, 5 line break assists, 4 offloads, a goal line dropout, and 5 from 7 goals converted. And how you just made it so easy for the Sharks to get on a roll in the second half. It was not funny. It seriously was not funny how bad the Dragons were playing.
Do you know how painful it is to be a Dragons supporter at the moment?
The fact that you conceded 80 points in 2 weeks.
Plus all the off-field dramas.
So put it this way: between our 2 clubs, who's looked the better side between rounds 3 and 4?
Bulldogs.
Because, I mean, think of it this way. You scored 3 tries against the Broncos before you let them dictate the game plan at Suncorp. You don't even convert both your tries to go into double digits against the Sharks. So you're practically 80 and 20. So you outscored 80 to 26 in rounds 3 and 4. Whereas by contrast, Canterbury, it was, if I get my mental map, that's right, 26-22 winners over the Tigers, 16-14 losers to the Warriors. So we go down 40 to 38, effectively, if I've got the numbers right. Right? 40 to 36. We have net positive scoring in those 2 results, but for some reason, it's 1-1. You're 0-2 in 2 weeks.
Yep. Can I just say, thank God we had that win against the Gold Coast, and thank God we had that freaking bye
for round 1.
And we're still sitting 9th to 11th on the table.
I think you're actually closer to the bottom 4 than you might think.
Well, I thought we were. I knew last time.
You're 14th, so you're bottom 4.
Okay, so we slipped down more than I thought we did.
Yep.
Well, last time I looked at the ladder, we were sitting above 9th and 4th.
With
9th.
Practically the worst for and against in the league.
Oh, that doesn't surprise me.
And you've got the
worse than the Tigers for and against?
Yeah, it's about...
You're kidding me.
It's a 25% worse than the Tigers.
And the Tigers have not even had a win this year.
Or a bye. And it's the worst defence. Oh, well, the second worst defence. The Titans have pipped you by 2.
Enjoy the podcast with Connor for the remainder of the year. I'm going to go outside and get struck by lightning.
No. Sit.
No, I'm not going
You're not done till I say you're done.
No, I'm not going to go and do that. But seriously, to have a worse for and against record
than the Tigers, who are running last,
is absolutely pathetic.
Now, the Dolphins, on a much more positive note, how good was the NRL era Battle of Brisbane? Of course, people keep forgetting there was already a Battle of Brisbane that was fought prior between the Broncos and the South Queensland Crushers.
Let's say 30 years ago?
1995, so probably close enough.
Yeah. Yeah, close enough to it, yeah. But yeah, it was an absolute cracker of a game, and I believe it was
the biggest crowd attendance at an NRL game since the Roosters and Rabbitohs round 2013, I believe, when they were both in the top two.
Well, I mean, that was Allianz?
ANZ,
ANZ.
as it was known then.
Well, I was going to say, well, if it was an Allianz, Suncorp's bigger, but if it was an ANZ, or call as it is known, well, then yeah, that would beat it.
The Dolphins, they just have got this... Like the Knights, they are building a reputation of resilience.
Even with Athletes Kafusi, they actually played really, really solid.
Tom Gilbert, I swear he and Tom Flagler were going to trade blows. I was just waiting for it to happen. Just like, these blokes are now so red in the face, you'd swear Tommy Radonicus was up in the box saying, "Come on, get in there, cattle dog, cattle dog." I mean, you could have swore... Or if Spud Carroll was there in either of those lineups, he would have just done what Tommy would have wanted.
Yeah, exactly right there. But yeah, without Fritz Kafusi, I thought the Dolphins were going to struggle a little bit, but they actually the whole team stepped up.
Yeah.
Like you say, especially Tom Gilbert.
They set up this absolute grandstand finish at, I believe it was 12-all, when Hamiso Tabuai Fido just sailed his way over the try line to give, I think
the Dolphins the lead.
Oh, not really, but to lock the scores up.
But
Coming
then,
in absolute clutch. You'd thought the Dolphins were going to go through and go 4-0. Oh, just continuing to build an absolute machine.
enter Tony Staggs.
Oh, well, it was a little bit unfortunate the way it did end, though. And I mean, Katoni Staggs, he was my standout player for the match-winning play, essentially. 1 try, 237 run meters, 4 tackle breaks, 1 line break, and 1 offload.
Was it what, 80-metre try?
No, length of the field.
Yeah.
Length of the field. It was just unfortunate because you thought that was a good kick Anthony Milford did. Try and build pressure
He
with the
kind of
scores
kicked it
locked
more
up.
at an angle towards the winner.
Yeah, heading out towards Tessie New on one leg. But it was just unfortunate that it bounced up for Stags, and with no one in Kui, despite the valiant chasers...
I was going to say, Tom Gilbert gave a bloody good chase.
But
and he made a difficult kick for Reynolds as well, which Reynolds had off night on a boot.
But the fact, the Broncos skipped out to an early lead. Essentially, half an hour to go, they're up 8-0. Then the Dolphins score 2 tries in the matter of 6 minutes to really turn the momentum on its head. Adam Reynolds had an absolute shock with the kick. The Broncos could have easily won it if he nailed the equivalent of a try in goals.
Yes, he just wasn't quite right on the boot.
But at the end of the day, it was Reynolds who was also a big difference. I mean, first Capewell broke through, and then Katoni Staggs just waltzed away with the match winner when it was all said and done.
Yeah.
But still a wonderful game.
I'm looking forward to the next Battle of Brisbane.
Well, that one's going to be at the Gabba and the Broncos home game.
Okay, I did not know it was meant to be at the Gabba. There you go.
Well, FIFA Women's World Cup, that's all that really needs to be said. So,
But what about KO Stadium?
Too
small of a ground, I'm guessing.
Even if they could get 10,000 or 11,000 in, which would probably be realistic, no go.
It's too small of a ground.
I don't know how Anthony Milford's going to go as the controlling halfback in this one. You'd assume he's going to be the controlling halfback.
Yeah.
But Marshall King's a big in for me, and I'm looking for that combination between him and the hammer. If he jumps from dummy half, there's going to be a hammer that is just going to be ready to go straight up the middle. So that's where I think the Dolphins
going to... Thor's hammer? Thor's hammer?
No. Oh. But I definitely think that's the line of attack the Dolphins are going to go. Play hard through the middle and use the speed of Marshall King and the hammer to their advantage. I think the Dolphins bounce back to win this 7-12.
Well, you're brave of going to... Well, I know you're saying Dolphins 7-12, but I'm not going to say Dolphins 13 points to 20. I'd nearly go 21 plus with how woeful the Dragons have been playing. I thought, nah. But yeah, the Dolphins are going to win this one.
And to wrap off the Saturday a triple header, it's the Brisbane Broncos at home to the West Tigers. The Tigers to this point, and for some ungodly reason, Tim Sheen sticking solid with the same 17 players that went down to the Storm, whilst welcoming several players from the were dropped against the Dogs back into the reserves.
But you've also got new players on the bench as
no,
well.
sorry, same 13.
Same 13 with new players on the bench.
Jake Simpkin, Justin Matamua, and Stafford Toa are all on the bench with Dane Laurie, Alex Seyfarth, and Sean Bloor or dropouts. I tell a lie, there were 3 changes on the bench, but it's the same 13 as before.
Yeah. As for Brisbane, it's the same 17 that beat the Dolphins, with Kobe Harrington back from bicep injury via the Host Plus Cup last week, and he's amongst reserves.
Honestly, don't know how Kobe Everington could break into this Broncos side at the moment.
No, me neither.
It would honestly take an injury or a suspension for Everington to break in. But I'm looking at this. Tapa'u has probably had the impact Kevin Walters thought he would have. An experienced head with his boom rookie four. Well, Payne Haas is an absolute monster. So the battle between him and David Clemmer will be one to watch.
Oh, bloody oath it will be.
I think the Broncos, like Melbourne, they'll be superior middle forward firepower that they'll be able to work with. And there's just too much class in this Broncos side. You look from fullback to lock forward, there is just so many attacking opportunities in this side. The Broncos, they're going to run away with this. They got tripped up by the Tigers last time out when they met in about round 20, but I don't think that's going to be happening this time. Broncos win this, and they will win this big, 21 plus.
Yeah,
there is just no hope for the West Tigers. There is no way they're going to be able to compete with this.
No, Tigers will be absolutely nowhere, and the Broncos absolutely kicked their ass.
It's just going to happen. But would you sack Tim Sheens if the Broncos put 40 on them?
Well, then...
I think your answer says everything. This
No,
is another...
to be honest, to become brutally honest, Anthony Griffin will probably get a sack before Tim Sheens will.
Yeah, I could probably see that.
I know I'm a Dragon supporter, but with him, like I said, I think I said it last week, for him to have to reapply for his job for next year, that pretty much says he's gone. I wouldn't be surprised if he's gone by round 8.
Yeah, that sounds pretty much...
or just after.
Well,
between 8th round and 10, I'll say he'll be gone.
Well, apparently Luke Brooks has been given at least 6 games or thereabouts. 10 at the most.
They said that before and kept him.
Well, I think this time they're seriously thinking, move him on. And the word is they are in fact eyeing off George Williams at this point.
That's what I was trying to get at before with Jack White, and I got a bit mixed up, but yes, that's what I was trying to get at before.
I don't think George Williams is going to leave Warrington.
No, look at the way
Carl Fitzpatrick and Darryl Powell will probably do everything they can to prevent Williams returning to the NRL.
Again.
Yeah, again.
Yeah.
But if they persist, I think, a la the John Bateman case, we would have to assume that they are indeed serious about bringing George Williams to the NRL as halfback for the Tigers.
Yeah. Like I said, there's always the option for Jack White to go there.
Now, Sunday afternoon, we're back in the Sutherland Shire as the Sharks play host to the New Zealand Warriors. A couple of changes for the Warriors enforced. Tamare Martin with concussion is out, so that's another 11 day. He's right there. Ronald Volkman will get another crack at the top flight. It's starting at 5'8", whilst a big boost for the Warriors. Wade Egan back in the side. So Freddie Lussick returns to the reserves, but they expect Tohu Harris to line up at lock forward for Andrew Webster's side.
As for the Sharks, Braden Trindle is back from an ankle injury and joining the bench with Orica Fusi ruled out with a HIA. And other than that, Saints starting 13 that racked up 40 points against the Dragons.
Now, the Warriors, they came away 16-14 winners over the Canterbury Bulldogs, which I am not happy about in the slightest.
Can I just mention one name to you? Sean Johnson try.
Yes, there's been a lot of questions about the Sean Johnson try. Was it legit? Was it because of obstruction that looked pretty obvious to everyone?
I think it was obstruction.
Well, even Gus Gould had to admit, and so did Bulldogs co-captain Reid Marnie, basically that there was no way they could make a play at the ball. It's just like, it was a non-factor.
Well, it looked like Reid Marnie got
knocked out by Fanua Blake.
Exactly.
Yeah.
There was no way Reid Marnie had a chance of getting to Sean Johnson. I'd say the Bulldogs got ripped off on that win.
It just exposes the same problem for the Dogs that has been apparent for the last 3 weeks. We play well for up to an hour, but the final 20 minutes, we just put the try scoring to bed.
Yeah.
It's just like, we're playing hour or long games, but we're not playing 80-minute long. And this time, it showed.
It did show this time, but like I said, I reckon the Dogs should have won that, and that was a clear obstruction.
But
Not obstruction.
It was good looking at the Fox in full.
Oh, bloody
flight.
oath it was.
Oh, that 90-meter
still
try
don't know
off
about
the
his-
scrum.
I still don't know about his new haircut. I just don't know about
What, the
that.
mullet?
Yeah, I don't know.
I mean, you
about-
know it's the flavour of the current NRL at the moment for nearly half the players to have a mullet going.
Yeah, I know, but I just don't... Yeah, I don't know if it suits him or not. Anyway.
But yeah, it just... The moment he skipped to the outside of, I believe it was Ed Corsi out on the right side off the scrum, it was just like...
Shut the gate.
No one was going to touch him the moment he stretched the hamstrings out completely.
No.
And
No
it was
way.
just... Oh, talk about poetry in motion, but... Alas, Canterbury did not go on the trot for 3 straight wins as I would have wanted to see.
Hey, there's still plenty
But
of chances
instead,
to
the
go 3 in a row.
Warriors go back-to-back themselves after a very strong performance against the Cowboys.
Yeah.
And this is the interesting part. Webster and Serraldo were both last year's assistants to Ivan Cleary. Serraldo
They
running the
were
attack.
too.
Oh, no, sorry. Serraldo running defense, Webster running the attack. And as it was pointed out, the attacking coach beat the defensive coach.
Yeah, I didn't think of it that way.
So Sean Johnson, I sort of went with as the Warriors' stand-up player. 1 try assist, 83 run meters, 1 tackle break, 1 line break, a goal line dropout, and 2 from 3 goals converted. But this is going to be a real test because they rocked up against an out-of-form Cowboys, dominated the middle of the field, and walked away winners. This Shark side, you're walking into the Bermuda Triangle of rugby league, where anything can happen.
I have to agree with
And
that
after
one.
last week looking at the Sharks, you're not likely to bet against them.
No, well, especially Nico Hynes getting back on to his performance and what he did. I know we don't really talk Supercoach much this one, but I have to say, whoever got Nico Hynes in their Supercoach side, 189 points last week.
And that's even before you had him as a captain.
Yes.
How much is he worth at the moment?
I
Ask
don't
for a
know.
friend.
Oh, I'm not 100% sure. But all I know, he's got 189
Well, his stock probably can't afford him. His stock's probably gone up.
He got 189
significantly.
points without being captain in his return match. But yeah, if he can back that up again, the Sharks are going to absolutely run right. It'll be, Sunday afternoon?
Sunday afternoon.
Oh, we'll be packed out.
PointsBet Stadium,
packed
as
out.
much as they're allowed to while the redevelopments go on.
Yeah, it will be a packed out PointsBet Stadium. Mostly, let's say 99% of it will be Shark supporters.
Yeah, I think that the Sharks win this 13-20. And I think as good as the Warriors have been, the Sharks are just great.
I'm tossing and turning if I go between 13-20 or 21 plus. But I'm leaning towards the 13-20 in Sharks' favour. Don't be surprised if it is 21 plus though.
And last but not least, to round out round 5, we have the Canterbury Bulldogs up against the North Queensland Cowboys.
Murray Taulagi and Shibashaki are both out, so Peter Hiku is back from suspension. That fills in the spot, one of the spots. And Brandon Elliott comes onto the win. Jeremy Nane is our suspended, so that sends Helam Lukey into the starting side and Mitch Dunn joining the bench with Riley Price set to make his debut off the bench in place of James Tarmow.
As for the Canterbury Bulldogs, there has been a couple of changes. Tavita Pangai Jr. not been named despite being monitored by medical staff over the calf strain. But the one change that has been made apparent, Josh Reynolds, for the first time since 2017, will play in the blue and white, coming off the bench for Cameron Sarah. Oh no, while Frank Pele also gets a recall into the starting 17.
And your favourite player still in the change?
At this point, I think Corey Waddell's probably going to stay there until the club either decides to back him or sack him.
Well, you got Jackson Torpenny in the reserves.
Yep.
Why can't they put him in instead of your man?
I am not in Cameron Serrato's inner circle. I don't know what goes on when it comes to team selection, but I think the Dogs would have been disappointed with how well they started against the Warriors in a competitive game over in Auckland. The Cowboys, meanwhile, a big bounce-back win in at home over the Titans, 24-12. But this was
a competitive match, though.
Well, I think the Titans were valiant in defeat, considering they lost both AJ Brimson and Kieran Foran heading into the bye.
True.
The game was on a knife edge before they went off, but I think the moment they did, I think the Titans' head somewhat went down and the Cowboys pounced.
Yeah.
I think you saw Taumalolo, Nane, they both ran for over 100 metres. Just, yes. I think that was a massive improvement, and criticism they suffered in loss to the Warriors that no Cowboys forward registered more than 100 metres, so I think that was a massive turnaround for the both of them.
Yes.
If the Cowboys are to succeed, they need more of their star forwards really digging into the line.
But for the Bulldogs to succeed, they need to not drop off in the last 20 minutes.
And I think there was a couple of opportune tries the Cowboys also scored as well. I think Valentine Holmes' try was very opportune with what the Titans were doing, because they were playing with a bit of confidence even when their best players were a persona non-factor.
They certainly were, but when Val Holmes broke away, there was no way he was getting caught, though.
And for me, he was the standout player for the Cows. 1 try, 232 run meters, 2 tackle breaks, 1 line break, and 4 from 4 goals converted.
Very sharp shooter, he is, Val Holmes. This one. Look, the Bulldogs have been playing competitively.
Besides round 1.
Yes, besides round 1.
Other than that, we have been...
We should have... We beat Melbourne, which was a surprise. We just beat the Tigers, which you shouldn't have just beaten them. You should have kicked their ass.
We were well in it against the Warriors until the final 20 minutes.
You got robbed against the Warriors.
If Gus and Reid Marnie are both saying it wasn't obstruction, because they reckon that the media's twisted it to the point and the fans have come up with their own conclusions about what the ruling for the obstruction is, because the bunker's been so inconsistent.
Again.
For 7 years.
Yeah.
For 7 years we've had the bunker, and it is just...
Yeah.
What do you do?
That's a story for another day, though. But yeah, I'll just say, if the Dogs have to win this one, they can't lose it. If they're in the lead, they can't slack off in the last 20 minutes, because otherwise the Cowboys will pounce and they will get in front.
I think if we get back to the game plan of... We played at our best when we started shifting the ball all around, troubling big packs like Melbourne's and getting it to the edges quickly. I think Jacob Carraz has proved an absolute weapon out on that right edge. Avarillo at right centre as well. I'm going to have the confidence to... Because I'm feeling a lot better about my team and where they are on the ladder, I've got a lot more confidence. The Bulldogs to win this, I think if we can shift it early, move the Cowboys pack around, we can tire them out, and then we can show our stuff off. And I think Matt Burton's due for another big one. Bulldogs win this 1-6.
Agree. I think they can just sneak past the Cowboys. Cowboys' record in Sydney isn't the greatest. which will probably go against them. But I think the Bulldogs can sneak home.
And I think having Josh Reynolds there is another big factor
Oh, yeah,
as
that
well.
will
He
help.
will get them fired up.
Depending on
for this
where he
one.
plays, there's another kick.
He'll play in the middle. No doubt, question in my mind, he will play in the middle.
Well, as in like a forward.
Dummy half,
Dummy
give
half,
Marnie
yeah.
a breather if necessary, but who knows?
But that adds if Josh Reynolds doesn't come out dummy half, well then there's 4 kicking options out there: Burton, Flanagan, Marnie, and Reynolds.
All right, well, that's all the NRL content for this week, but don't go anywhere. We'll be back after a short break for the preview of round 7 of the Betfred Super League. Can Wakefield get a win? Will St. Helens break into the top 4? And how long will it be before Warrington drop off from the top of the table? Well, find out after these short messages.